This video may be strong for kids under the age of 12. The content in this video is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding your condition. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard or read in our Let's Talk channel or social media.
In this episode of Let's Talk,
we're living in a society where I think mental health awareness is being raised more than ever.
So it doesn't make sense that I'm constantly stressed and worried and like my heart's pounding and I don't know what's wrong. So having to explain that to people is scary.
Speaking to somebody about it is huge. Someone that you trust. It could be your neighbor, your friend, your pastor, your coach, your brother. Most of the times when someone's suicidal, they will not speak to their family about it. There was something about what I was going through that I didn't want to deal with. Therefore, I became dependent on these medicines.
And it's so sad that for society to become aware of the things that are really going on about how many people are committing suicide, like how many lives are going to take for people to realize this is an actual problem that everyone needs to work on.
Hey guys, thank you all for being here. I'm really excited to have you all and welcome to our special guest, Anna. We're really excited. We're really excited to have you. Today I want to talk about mental health. We're living in a society where I think mental health awareness is being raised more than ever. As I was preparing for this, I saw a statistic that really struck me, and it's that anxiety is the most common mental illness of all, but 1 in 13 people are currently suffering from anxiety. And I think that that's such a big number, and I think that it might not even cover everything. Like there might even be more cases. It's just that, we just don't know. So I'm kind of curious to see, what have your experiences been around mental health issues?
It's a hot topic now, right? It's almost like, man, but I just think it's not really a new problem. It's just now we're more aware of it because of, doctors and how medicine is truly helping people with a chemical imbalance. I think it's important that we encourage people that are truly having a chemical imbalance to get help from a psychiatrist, because at least, for a season, to get the help they need from that doctor. God created medicine, and how the world has evolved is to help, and that should be the main goal. Also, encourage people to not just stay there and conform to what the doctor said, because that could be also a dangerous place. Because once you start receiving help and you start believing that you do have an illness, you accept it, and it almost becomes part of you. You let it define you. You let it define you.
This is just how it is.
This is just how it is. It's never going to change. I'm going to be dependent to this medicine for the rest of my life. I'm never going to be normal. There's something wrong with me. So I think you should always encourage people to get the help they need, but also challenge, go the next step and see how they can come out of that too. I was on psych meds. I took Xanax for 9 years. Wow. I took and like high doses. I was so dependent on it. And I took Klonopin. I took Adderall. Like I was on these 3 medicines at the same time at one point, and then something that medicine did for me is that it numbed what I was feeling. It helped as an escape to numb what I was truly feeling inside. And it really helped me escape from my reality. There was something about what I was going through that I didn't want to deal with. Therefore, I became dependent on these medicines to be happy, to enjoy life. Like I couldn't spend time with my family if I wasn't under Xanax. Like taking the pill motivated me to do things that I wanted to do, but I couldn't do because I just wanted to feel normal. And I think that's one of the definitions here that we use in Canaan for an addiction, is the attempt to feel normal. And I had become so dependent on these drugs that even the first time that I wanted help, I asked one of my aunts to take me to a psychiatrist. I never wanted to go to a regeneration program to get my life restored. What I wanted was a doctor to prescribe more medicine to me, because I thought that was the only way. It was important that we surround ourselves with real testimonies of people that have been able to overcome mental health, not only with a psychiatrist, because they're only going to provide an answer for a period of time. Yeah. But we can't keep going to a psychiatrist looking for answers that only God has. Yeah. You know? And that's where we need to be sensitive of where we're at in our walk, the help that we need today, and not conform with just staying there.
To give you some statistics from the World Health Organization, over 800,000 people commit suicide every year. It's more than homicide. Like it is a real thing. And just quickly for me, I had a chemical imbalance in my brain at 17, and I was Baker active for 9 days because I drank alcohol and took steroids. I took medication, but I was able to get out of that. Like I got rid of the medication after 2 years of being on it, and I didn't know God back then. Fast forward many moons later, 2017, my mom tries to commit suicide because she was on 6 or 7 different pills, and she tried to kill herself. She left a note and everything. She didn't die, she survived, but living that experience showed me what you said, how sensitive we have to be, because when somebody says, I want to kill myself, and you're just like, you know what, Junior, man, you're always talking crazy, you know what? And then when the person actually does it, then it's just like, oh my God, like I could have done something more. Like it's a sensitive subject that we need to learn how to be sensitive to others, not just ourselves. But that statistic is real, and it's even in the season that we're living right now, it's heightened. Speaking to somebody about it is huge. Someone that you trust. It could be your neighbor, your friend, your pastor, your coach, your brother. You know, most of the times when someone's suicidal, they will not speak to their family about it. Like when I was in those states, I didn't tell my sisters, I didn't tell my mom, I didn't tell my dad, but I had a coach. And finding that person that you trust and that you can be vulnerable with, I think is such an important part of this. This mental health.
Well, I think like how he was saying, sometimes it gets taken for granted when people say like, you know what, I'm gonna go kill myself, and like you don't really think that people are actually gonna do it. It's just how society has shaped it for people to think like, you know, she's just like talking like stupid things, like she's not gonna do it, and then when she actually does it, it hits you. And it's so sad that for society to become aware of the things that are really going on about how many people are committing suicide. Like, how many lives are gonna take for people to realize this is an actual problem that everyone needs to work on? I take pills. I'm on antidepressants. I've been on antidepressants for almost 4 years. And at first, like Junior was saying, I was only like going to my psychiatrist and not doing anything else, because I thought that like medicine would be the only thing that would get me out of it. But in reality, it's gonna help you for a little bit, but you need to do more. You can't just stay there, because like everyone was saying, you may need the help for your brain that's like imbalanced. It numbs you out. You don't feel sad. You don't feel nothing. You just feel numb. What are you gonna do after that? You need to find something to do like once you're set. You know, therapy, and what we were talking about earlier is, okay, you have therapy, but you need to work on your spiritual part, because you can be on as many pills as you'd like, but if your spiritual part and your heart is not fixed and you're not ready to let everything go, it's just gonna like crash and it's gonna be a mess again. So at least for me, when I was taking, I started taking sleeping pills at first because I couldn't sleep when I was really depressed back when I used to live in Mexico. For me, I was extremely suicidal. I was harming myself. I cut myself every day. It got to a point where I can say I was addicted to it. I got home from school and I would look at my wrist and I'm like, you haven't done it today. You kind of have to, because you know you did this thing wrong and now you deserve it. I would tell my friends like, I'm not feeling good. I think I need help, and they would be like, you're good, girl. Like, you don't need help. It's just I think you're like exaggerating, because okay, yes, you're sad, but there's people outside dying. So your problem now doesn't matter. And I think, and like in reality, it doesn't matter whose problem is bigger or not. It's just like you all have a problem, and you shouldn't be comparing your problems to others. You know? And for me, that's what like discouraged me to talk about it. Nobody knew. When I took like 20 like sleeping pills, and I thought that was gonna like that was gonna be it. Once I took them, like 5 minutes later, it hit me like, what did you just do? I really thought my life was gonna be like over. I was like, I can't believe that like all these years of my life are gonna be gone in just like a second. I'm not even gonna realize it. And I panicked. I didn't know what to do. There was no one home. I didn't want to tell my brother, didn't want to tell my grandfather, didn't have contact with my mom. My dad wouldn't even talk to me. I was just so stressed about it. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna die here alone, you know? And I called my aunt. I left her a voicemail. She never came to my house. I was so like, I don't know how to explain the fear. And I started thinking about, like, I feel like that was my first real experience with God. Because it hit me like, you're not alone. Like, you completely messed up. And I remember I went to the bathroom. I tried to make myself vomit. I was just trying everything I could to get out of it. And I started getting really sleepy. And I couldn't resist it anymore. So I really thought that was it. I fell asleep crying. 10, 15 hours later, I woke up. I can't tell you like how grateful I was, how grateful I am that I woke up from that. It's just like you having that experience of getting another chance at like living, at, you know, correcting your mistakes, having another chance to be who you really are. And I think what God told me that morning when I woke up was like, okay, so this is your experience. Now you need to help people like you that are in this like scenarios to understand that that's not the only way out. It's not the way out, you know? And since then, I've been like, I get so passionate about helping other people with like mental health, and just like you guys were talking, I really appreciate like what we're all doing. It's such like a taboo, like he's saying, people don't talk about it. It's like I think that when you bring it to the table, everyone just stays quiet about it, you know?
And it's I love that you said that you like ever since you went through that, all you want to do is help others, and that's what you're doing right now, like by being here. But it's like I'm so grateful that you woke up, you know, because God has amazing plans for your life, and it's not like it's not an accident that happened, you know. It's amazing to hear your story, and to like, I think that we see people, but we really don't know what's going on behind the scenes, you know, like you were saying. We don't know the whole story. We don't know what they're going through. We don't know what they're thinking. I think the people that look the most normal, the most okay, the most happy are often the most unhappy, are often the ones that, you know, go home and contemplate taking their life because things are getting so difficult and so hard. So, you know, I've known you for a while, but I didn't know like your whole story, and just hearing it, I'm gonna cry, because it's such a beautiful thing that God gave you a second chance, you know, to be alive and to make, you know, use of all of those difficult things that you went through.
You know, I did have people around me that cared about me, but I just couldn't see it. I was completely blinded. I recently had started taking medication, and it wasn't even the right medication for me. It just made me feel like I was like trapped inside my own body. It made me feel like I was a robot. I remember I was writing some notes about it in class. Like I would sit there and just like, you know, with my head like this, wouldn't even talk for the whole day. I was just like so tugged inside my mind. I couldn't feel anything. I just had like a lot of problems finding the right medication for me. And it got to a point where my body got like addicted to it. So when I was like, you know what, I don't need this medication anymore, it's making me feel really bad, I made the mistake to, without any medical help, I took it out. I stopped taking it, I threw it away, I flushed it down. Yeah, absolutely. I was like F this, I don't want to take it anymore. You're making me feel worse. I was absolutely wrong. Like the chemical imbalance that I created in my brain by doing that just made everything absolutely worse. I wouldn't get out of bed. It's so incredible, like how I had another downhill. I thought that once like I got another, like a second chance at life, everything would get better and I would just be more motivated to do it. I wouldn't get out of bed to go to the bathroom. I wouldn't shower. I was not motivated to do anything. I wouldn't eat. And it's not because I couldn't care. I couldn't care less about anything. My grades went down. I always been like like a kid that gets good grades. I'm super social. I love going out with people. All of that went out. I can't explain how I felt. Like, it didn't only affect like my mind, like how I was feeling. It started affecting me physically as well. Like, I would go up the stairs and I couldn't breathe. I would be walking and then I just would feel so depressed that I would just drop on the floor, like you see in movies. I would like, lay down on the floor and just stare at the ceiling for hours until I felt the energy to get up and go to my bed. And it's really difficult, at least when you're in that state, to ask for help because you're just so afraid. I was so afraid of getting judged by other people. I was afraid of people not understanding. I was afraid of my friends, getting away from me just because of, everything I went through. When I committed suicide, my mom didn't know. A few months later, I get this really bad panic attack. And I couldn't breathe. I was on the floor. I was, rolling. It was terrible for me. Next morning, I go to my mom, and she says, hey, baby, what's up? I just dropped to the floor and start crying. And once I finally told her I need help, this is, listen to all, that's been happening to me. I'm heartbroken. I don't want to live like this anymore. That's when I first started, actually getting help. And I was so surprised by it that I didn't get judged by her. She instantly wanted to help me and everything. It's just, I think society sometimes builds that, fear around you. There's people are gonna judge you if you're not happy, if you're not like this, you don't matter. It's that stigma created around depression and anxiety that makes it feel like you are a monster, that you are wrong, that you don't belong.
As if you have a good life, I'm someone that you would consider you have a good life. There's nothing actually wrong that should be causing so much anxiety inside of you. So it doesn't make sense that I'm constantly stressed and worried and my heart's pounding and I don't know what's wrong. So having to explain that to people is scary. My parents have understood and they've helped me through it, but it's hard to explain to someone who doesn't understand it. Yes. And you definitely think you're going to get judged for it because it doesn't make sense.
I can relate to that. I remember because I used to live in a good house with my grandpa. I had food, I had all of that, and people would tell me what are you sad for? And it's not just having the things you need to live a normal life. Not because you have those things, it means that you're gonna be happy.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with that. And I think that someone that has experienced it, they get it. And one thing I wanted to say is, pain is a part of life. Suffering is an option. That's a Tony Robbins quote. Right? Suffering is an option, but sometimes people that commit suicide, in their mind, that is the only option. So the only way that they can end the suffering is by doing the act. I'm just going to kill myself because this is how I'm going to stop the suffering. It's not about the bullying. It's not about the anger. I just want to end this suffering, the pain, and so it's just important for us to listen, the people that watch this and the people that it's just important for you not to judge.
I think a decision of committing suicide is not something that you just make out of the blue, right? It's something I think it's something you build up to, So I think with acknowledging people's feelings, like you were saying. I think validating people's feelings and what they're going through is the most important part so you could truly understand how to help somebody. You have to listen to them to be able to help somebody. Mental health, it has to do with mental sickness in reality. There's something off. There's something wrong. So when you were saying, Anna, it's not that I didn't have people that cared about me, I was just blinded to it. So what happened? I know when I was depressed, I would hear voices that would bring me down. And normally somebody who suffers with depression have suffered severe rejection because trauma's voice could bring you so low to the point of committing suicide. And we need to understand that painful situations that we go through could be ministering to us because that's why it's mental health, because it's really in our mind, and that's where the battle is.
Nobody ever teaches us how to think. What are you thinking about? Practice thinking. Think about what you're thinking about. I remember I said that to a guy once. I was like, yeah, practice thinking. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah, like we need to be able to be conscious as to what am I thinking? Like, where are these voices coming from? What am I thinking about? Because our mind automatically goes into that negative state. It's like a default button. The mind always goes into, Gabe, you're not good enough. Gabe, you can't do that.
Like Junior was asking me, what made me blinded, what made me think people were not caring, it's just something that I built up since I was like a little girl. Because, you know, I would get bullied. I have been to like 8 or 9 different schools like my whole life. Because I would move to to a different school, different state, different everything, and I would get bullied in every single one of them. I was told, you're not enough, you're ugly, you're this, you're that. So eventually that keeps building up on you. And I think that those things, like, I think childhood is so like powerful on what builds up to when you grow up.
You start to believe.
Exactly. I remember when I was really overthinking, when I was like specifically like in my worst times, I would get attacked by my own thoughts. It wasn't even people telling me you don't matter, you're this, you're that, you're wrong. It was my own thoughts. I was being attacked by my own self, by my head, by my mind.
You know, I think something very common that I feel like we keep mentioning is I feel like society has made us believe that mental health issues, anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, like that is the diagnosis, like that is the issue, you know? But in reality, it's like, let's say you go to the doctor, right, and you have a cough, and the doctor's gonna treat, you know, the symptom that's coming up is the cough. He's going to treat you for the root issue. And I think that we see anxiety, we see depression, we see mental health issues as a condition when really it's a symptom. Really it's the result of that childhood, of all of that trauma that has built up in your heart that you're not addressing, that you're repressing, that you're just keeping back. And in my case, and I'm sure that in your case as well, and all of us that have struggled with mental health issues. I mean, I personally struggled with anxiety for 3 years, and I kept getting, you know, the symptom every single day, and I was like, what's going on? I live, you know, have a good life. There's really nothing to be worried about, nothing to be scared of. No one's running after me. Why am I so paranoid all the time? But it wasn't until I started looking inward and thinking about what I was thinking about, you know, and really analyzing and allowing God to show me, you know, where that hurt was, like where that happened, that shift happened, that caused me to you know, feel hopeless, feel alone. And I think we need to realize that and stop labeling mental health issues as the ultimate issue, basically.
It's simply a fruit, the fruit of, it's a manifestation of what's really happening inside. We could call a psychiatrist all you want, but it's only the Lord that is going to have the ultimate, he's going to give us the ultimate satisfaction.
The real doctor.
The real doctor. We need to be open to that. Just like we need to be open to mental issues, we need to be open to God and his ability to heal our hearts.
That's good.
Because, you know, maybe that's the reason why we have that, because that's the only way we're going to get to know the healer. He cannot reveal himself as the healer unless you have an illness. So it's really an opportunity to open up our hearts and believe that just like he did it with him, just like he did it with her, he could do it with me.
Once we do get to that point where there is healing, now you can help others. And that's where fulfillment is, right? Like we talked about, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Once you're in a place now, like Junior, where you're still in your restoration, we're all still healing, we're all still learning, we're all still growing, but you're not where you were. Right. And now you can pour into others and help them, and that's going to bring you fulfillment. God's going to use you as a vessel. God's going to use you as a vessel to pour into others. And I'm proud of you.
So,
So glad to have you here. Yeah. You're a miracle. So, but this was a great talk. Man, loved it. Loved your testimony, Anna.
Thank you for inviting.
God has so much more in store for you.
Thank you guys for coming and for really like opening up your hearts and sharing. You know, I know that it's really hard sometimes to share those the darkest places that we've been in, the vulnerable, the really, really like hard things that we've been through. But like we're all saying, once you get out of it, you start to understand that there's a reason why you went through it, and it's because now you understand everyone else that's struggling with it. And if you really haven't been there, you really don't get it. But we do. So it's encouraging to know that we are, you know, called to help those around us that are struggling with the same things.
Canaan Church is not a rehabilitation center or emergency facility. If you are in crisis or you think you may have an emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. If you're having suicidal thoughts, call 1-800-273-8255 to talk to a skilled counselor at a crisis center at any time. If you are located outside of the United States, call your local emergency line immediately.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and share it with a friend that you feel needs to hear this message. See you guys next week on our next video.